What's up, everybody? Renfail here, back again with some more Rogue Trader beta for those of you who are preparing for the launch of this game on December 7th. And today we're going to dive into the psychers. Specifically, I kind of want to talk about the two types of psychers that you're able to play in the beta, which give you sort of a glimpse at what you're going to be able to do in the live game. Now, obviously, they haven't completely fleshed these things out, and if you're watching some of the videos from other people who have like advanced copies of the game, they might have more information, but I'm only dealing with what's in the beta, and I'll know more about all this once the live game comes out, and we will sink our teeth into that. But for now, if you're playing the beta like I am in early access, when you play through the game, there's two characters that you get. Obviously, you can create your own Adept as well, but you get Adira and Heinrix, who are two different types of Adepts, or two different types of psychers. In the case of Adira, she is a diviner, and if you look at what the diviners are here, essentially, if you look at divination, it specializes in gleaning information and using it to turn fortune in your favor. Diviners find useful insights everywhere, manifesting extrasensory abilities and glimpsing the future. It says here they seek to discern the hidden paths of the galaxy and know the course of events yet to come. Their abilities allow them to look into the twisting strands of the immaterium in search of the answers they seek, and sometimes even influence the outcome of fate itself. Now we're going to dive into the actual beta here in a minute and look at these characters in real time so that you can see what some of their abilities look like when they're leveled up, but I just wanted to read the description to you first, and then we'll get into the game and actually show you those in real time. Meanwhile, you have biomancers, who specialize in manipulating biological energy and processes with the power of their minds. They are masters of the flesh, learning to shape and influence the physical forms of themselves, their allies, or their enemies according to their will. And if you look at biomancy, it says they focus on manipulating living flesh and biological processes. They can heal wounds and alter physical characteristics. But a lot of what they can do depends entirely on how you spec the character. Because if you go to the doctrine for the Adepts, which are essentially what you're going to be choosing if you make a psycher, although you don't have to, because remember, your origin is simply your origin. You could choose a completely different background for your psycher. But Adepts are what these two characters are in the game, so I kind of wanted to show you that a little bit in greater detail. So when you look at the actual base doctrine for the Adept, the base class that is the Adept, they all get the same level up choices, but what you choose during that level up process is going to define greatly the differences between the different types of Adepts that you can have. So this is one of the reasons why I know I've seen some people talk about how you shouldn't have more than one Adept in your group, and I just kind of question that and go, well, sure you should, because you could have 6 total party members. You're going to have duplicates of something at some point, and you can absolutely have a diviner and a biomancer in the same group because they do drastically different things, which we'll show here in a minute. But if you go around here, you know, when you level up, you're going to get the same choices presented to you as you level up, but how you choose to, you know, define your character through the leveling up process is what's going to dramatically change the way you can play. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into one of the games that I have available. Let's go down here. I believe it's this one right here. We're going to go ahead and load this. And there are essentially two psychers, or two Adepts, that you're going to get along the way. As I mentioned earlier, one is Adira, who you meet very early on in the prologue of the game, and then Heinrix, who is someone you're going to come across later on in the game. And they have different motivations and different background stories for their characters, and they also play dramatically different. Now, I'm not going to show any combat in this video. If you want to see combat in action, you need to just tune into one of the live streams or watch one of the combat guides I've got, because this is just talking about the differences between these two psychers, these two Adepts, and the difference essentially between the diviner and the biomancer. So let's go ahead and open up the character panel. We'll go straight to doctrines, and let's go ahead and take a look at Adira first. So she is an Adept, and if we go in here and look at what she has leveled up with as her abilities, she's got study enemies, dismantling attack. She's got all these characteristics. Actually, let's take a look at her in combat here. Here we go. So she has right now, she can do a melee attack with strike, but she also has lightning arc, which is an amazing ability, which leads to lightning arc heroic push, and then a lightning arc Desperate Push, which are Desperate Measure and Heroic Act versions of the General Lightning Arc. This is a great spell, but it does harm your friends, so you have to be careful with it. But also she has things like Forewarning, Study Enemies, which pretty much any of the Adepts can get. But this is just how she's spec'd. Dismantling Attack, across the board here. Foreboding, Psychic Shriek, Expose Weakness, and then of course her other heroic acts and Joint Study. Now if we look at Heinrix on the other hand, he has a completely different set of abilities. He's got Assail, Charge, Daring Breach, Reckless Strike, Iron Arm, Enfeeble, and Endure. Now, one of my favorites here, if you look at these two, you've got Assail, which he assaults the target with a telekinetic strike, damaging them for 1 to 4 plus half his willpower bonus, and tries to throw them to the ground. This is a beautiful spell to use when you're dealing with bosses that you try to avoid taking damage from. It works great when you can get it to work. And then with that is Enfeeble, which weakens all targets within an area. So I can, I don't have any enemies available at the moment to do that on. But you could make them more susceptible to attack. It essentially reduces their strength and agility and increases all damage against them by a factor of X based on your bonuses. And then Iron Arm, which enhances one of your characters with strength and bonus buff. So you can see where the difference between these two essentially is Heinrich is more focused on damage dealing, and he can do a little bit of buffs for his friends. He can also debuff the enemies, but he's got a lot of abilities that are related to damaging the mobs. And he also has Reckless Strike, which buffs any fighter in the group, either him or someone else. And then, of course, he has all of his melee and ranged abilities because of the weapons he has. Whereas Adira is more set up to be a debuffer with Study Enemies and then Expose Weakness, or she can come in here and do damage with the Lightning Arc spell, which is brilliantly set up, by the way, and Forewarning, which helps buff one of her allies. It increases their dodge and parry. So they're spec'd two different ways, even though they're both technically Adepts, they're both technically Psychers. I believe if you read the roleplay description of these characters on Owlcat's website, they say that Adira is an unsanctioned psyker, which means he's not technically legal, whereas Heinrich actually works for the Imperium, and he's a legitimate psyker who's in the employ of the Empire. So it's pretty cool stuff if you want to get into the roleplay of each of these two characters. Quick commercial break, everyone, to celebrate and give thanks to all of these amazing people who keep me on the air full time. Really appreciate the support. All you got to do is join as a member. You get access to private videos. You can also do super thanks on any upload or super chats and stickers on any live stream or premiere you see. And beyond that, don't forget we're multi-streaming over on Twitch now, so you can support over there as well. Thanks so much to everybody. Let's get back to the video at hand. But if you go and just look at the doctrine for these two characters and the way they've leveled up over the course of their careers, they've just taken completely different things. She's got Medica and Exposed Weakness right out of the gate, whereas he took Enfeeble and Coercion right out of the gate. So immediately at level 1, they both took completely different choices. And then level 2, he went Advance and Swift Movement, whereas she went Logic and Instant Expose. So this is the cool thing about this game. One of the things I really love is that you can have two of the same class in your party, of the same doctrine, and yet because of the choices they're making when they're leveling up, you can have dramatically different outcomes. And that's something that I haven't necessarily seen in a lot of other games. And this, I'm assuming, is something that's unique to Warhammer, because even in Baldur's Gate, Pillars of Eternity, the Pathfinder games, all of these other CRPGs I've played, the main difference between one class and the other class is going to be when you get into the subclasses, right? If you have, as an example, I'm going to say something off the top of my head, if you have a rogue archetype, right? And then underneath that rogue, you have assassin versus mechanics rogue, right? That's where you see the differences, is when you start to do the subclasses for the main class. Well, they don't really have, as far as I've been able to see, they don't really have subclasses here. What you have is your first your first doctrine, and then once you get through the first 15 levels of that, you can then choose a secondary doctrine, which is not a subclass per se. It's just, oh, I've refined my studies enough now that I want to start going down this path. It's kind of the same thing, but also not the same thing, because multi-classing in like D&D and Pathfinder could be done in at a much lower level and can be done in quite a different way. So for me, I like to look at the differences between these two adepts and say, looking at the way adepts are played and having one be a biomancer and one be a diviner, and have those two characters play completely differently because of the way they've chosen to level up throughout the level up process. It's part of one of the reasons why I've been absolutely enthralled with Rogue Trader to this point. I knew nothing about Warhammer before I came into this game, and Owlcat has done a great job of providing me with super complex options, but also laid out in a way that's helped me learn it. There was a little bit of a learning curve in the beginning with separating. Wait a second, doctrines means class. Okay, what about origin? Okay, that's also that's just background. Okay, once I figured all the terminology out, it's been a fun ride so far, and I can't wait to share the live game with all of you on December 7th and onwards. So hopefully you'll stick around for everything that's to come. Don't forget, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. To get more of this, check out the playlist for more videos of Rogue Trader. I'm multi-streaming on YouTube and Twitch, so you can follow along live wherever you want. Daily, every day, 5:30 to 7:30 a.m., and every evening from 8 p.m. Central onwards. So hopefully we'll see you in another video or the next live stream. Until then, stay safe, everybody. Happy gaming.